we're going to push people's buttons and try to really evoke authentic and genuine responses, even though Dennis today dumped on authenticity. We're going to try to evoke those authentic responses, and we're going to begin. Dennis Prager, years ago, you wrote an article, this is about 15 years ago, saying that the Jewish community should actively proselytize non-Jews. And it was one of your most memorable articles. I remember that I wrote you a 10-page response to it, if you still remember that. And given the fact that the Jewish birth rate is so incredibly low, and given the fact that Michael, who is an expert in Jewish demographics, we've gone from 6 million Jews down to 5 million. You said today 4% of the population to 2% of the population. And that is due to assimilation, but especially to a low Jewish birth rate. Should the Jewish community reverse basically a 3 millennia approach in not actively proselytizing and become like the Mormons? The Mormons have caught up to the Jews after just 160 years of existence. There's 14 million Mormons, fastest growing religion in the world, 14 million Jews. We're 3,500 years older, but they field 60,000 missionaries. Good idea or bad?
It's a good idea, but my biggest thrust is that Jews talk to the world, period. A few years ago I had an idea, and it was something I wanted to start in LA where I live, and that is bring a Christian home for Shabbat dinner. It ran into the following problem. The Jews who had Christian friends didn't have a Shabbat dinner, and the Jews who made Shabbat didn't have Christian friends. And that ended that brilliant idea that I had, one of many that fell before even being tried. But that really summarizes what I believe is the Jewish tragedy. Jewish Jews don't talk to the world, non-Jewish Jews talk to the world. Do you know how often I get a call or an email from a non-Jewish listener, and obviously having a national radio show, most of your listeners are not going to be Jewish. And very often, in total seriousness, the listener will write or say, Dennis just wants you to know you're the first Jew I ever met. And of course I'm not the first Jew they ever met. They've met Jews in their work, they've met Jews on television. I'm the first Jewish Jew that they ever met. Jewish Jews stay home. Jewish Jews, the more Jewish the Jew, I mean religiously, the more insular he or she is likely to be. Indeed, one of the biggest challenges I get from religious Jews is, Dennis, please, we have to work with Jews. We have so many lost Jews. When you talk to the guy, and Dennis, maybe one day, and Mashiach will come and talk to the guy. In the meantime, we got to worry about all the lost Jews. As if there was some sort of contradiction between talking to the world and talking to Jews. So that's the issue of proselytizing is way down the list of although I'm for it in a very sophisticated way. In other words, I don't want to turn Christians into Jews, but if someone has no religion, I see no reason why we shouldn't offer Judaism as everything else is offered. But that's secondary to the biggest single issue. We need to talk to the world from within Judaism. Jews who talk to the world proselytize for feminism, for environmentalism, for socialism, for every ism you can imagine, except Judaism and its values.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so Dennis, you're saying that you would be in favor of proselytizing only for people who don't really have a religion yet, and why not offer Judaism? But the Orthodox are traditionally opposed to any kind of actively proselytizing. So, what would our sole rabbi on the panel, should we be actively proselytizing non-Jews to become Jewish? I'm sorry. See, I think Joseph Telushkin is a world-renowned author and the sole Orthodox rabbi, I'm sorry. There's also Joseph Telushkin, of course. Yeah, right.
Do you want to answer the question? Well, first of all, Dennis, 2 comments. One is, thank God Yeshiva University has rabbis around the country, and if you want to work out some way in which we can have them open their homes to non-Jews, we should talk about that after the program. I don't think there's anything wrong with us extending ourselves and being able to talk to the larger world. I think that's our responsibility. However, I do believe that it's not our responsibility to become the largest religion. I think that Judaism believes that there's more than one way to heaven. If you're a good Christian, if you're a good Muslim, you can get to heaven. Maimonides actually writes in the Laws of the Messiah that in discussing actually the role of Jesus in the world, Maimonides writes, and these are his words in Hebrew, Yasher Derech HaMashiach, that even Jesus helped prepare the way to becoming the final Messiah by introducing forms of monotheism into the world. So I do believe that it's extremely important to recognize that every religion has purpose. We have to share the norms and mores of Judaism to the larger world. We don't believe in a Robinson Crusoe lifestyle. And I think it is healthy and important to reach out to the larger Jewish community and the larger world community. I often find that the Orthodox community understands the larger world community better than it understands the larger Jewish community. And I think that, in many ways, for the Orthodox community is a bigger challenge. I think it's easier for Orthodox Jews to interact with Christians than it is their friends who are not observant. Let me just end with one statement. You know, in Rabbi Abadi's synagogue, the ancient customs which are found in the traditions of the Siddur that Rabbi Abadi uses in the synagogue, and I believe it's also in the Siddur of Chabad, is that every time you begin the prayer service in which you celebrate a rendezvous with God, you need to start off acknowledging the fact that we have a responsibility to love every human being and to engage in a relationship with every Jew. You can't begin a rendezvous with God without recognizing our responsibilities to humanity. And that's, in the essence, before you begin prayer to God, you have to recognize that point. So I think we have to teach those points, we have to teach them wisely, and I don't think there's any chasm between the responsibility to engage the larger Jewish community and to engage society.
Okay, well now I'm going to make this more of a talk show, because I mean, fair enough, but the fact is, our numbers are plummeting, and there's 2 Jews left in America. And you can't support Israel once you fall below a critical mass. And we're up against Arab boycotts of 1 billion people, and there's only 14 million Jews. And as Michael Steinhardt said today, I think it was you, Michael, who said that in Europe, maybe it was Dennis, in Europe we've all but disappeared. And it was you who said it, right? And, I mean, you have 100,000 Jews in Australia. You have, what, 200,000 Jews in Canada, 600,000 in France. And then the numbers go really low. 200,000 in England. In the United States, down to 5 million, 2% of the population. I mean, Michael, numbers are important after all. We're not going to suddenly increase our birth rate vastly. Isn't proselytizing the only way to solve this dilemma?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if democracy is the right way to deal with most issues, but I think in the following area, I would truly be a Democrat. If we had a plebiscite in Israel, or in the United States, or in other countries that had large Jewish populations, and the vote was on the following: in order to become a Jew, do you have to go through an Orthodox conversion? I think in virtually every Jewish country in the world, the vote would be no. If you had a second vote, in order to become a Jew, do you have to go through any religious conversion? I think there too, but I'm not so sure, I think there too, the vote would be no. So, my feeling is that in order to become a Jew everywhere in the world, it should be a simple process of a voluntary judgment on the part of an individual who chooses to be Jewish, and that choice alone should be sufficient for that person to be recognized as a Jew, and that in meaningful part would deal with your problem.
Okay, well, interesting, but Michael.